Good morning, lovely people of Earth. How are you? Wow, Leigh-Ann, the sun's really just hit your face.
Like in the last 2 seconds.
In a second, like we were getting ready for the show a moment ago, and then, now you need sunglasses. What the hell happened there?
Yeah.
You got a window right in front of you? Does the sun
Yeah, I
move
do,
to
but it's also
irritate you?
reflecting
What's
off
going
of
on
the
there?
house across the road.
It's reflecting off the house across the road.
Yeah, it's a double story and it's reflecting off of the top window.
Have they got one of those parabolic sun mirrors that they use to power up the whole neighborhood? Looks like it.
Basically, They're trying to set this part of my head alight.
Yeah, I can
with
see.
With a magnifying glass.
That's like when you burnt ants when you were a kid.
Oh, just speak for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I did. Didn't you used to burn ants with a magnifying glass when you were a kid?
No, but I'd squash them when I saw them when I was in the bath. I'd squash them and then smell them, and they stank.
Well, why are you less cruel than me then? I mean, burning them with a magnifying glass is not necessarily worse than drowning them or squashing them in the bath.
Squashing them is more instant, I think.
Oh,
burning
really?
them.
You don't think that the burning them is like they don't know what the hell's going on. Suddenly, it's hot. Oh, it's hot.
Yeah, but you might burn their thorax and not their head.
I can't believe we're having this conversation first thing on a Monday morning. Oh, what a horrible thing. So Mbulelo's back. He did some serious exercise over the weekend, and he did this race. Where did you come? Like 100 and something, but you did.
Yeah.
How many hours?
Loser.
17 hours. Yeah, I'm a loser. I tell you what, I'm older. 17 hours. It's too long.
17.
Yeah, it was long.
Do you stop in the middle?
No, you keep going for. I mean, it's 100K, so you stop about every 10Ks is like a water table.
Oh my
whatever.
God!
Yeah, but it's
Jesus,
tough
man.
stuff, and it was cold there. Yes. Okay, it was raining.
It was cold. It was cold this weekend in Joburg too. I mean, Friday night was chilly. I felt like we were back in winter almost. It was horrible. Horrible.
Horrible.
Horrible. It was horrible. Not great.
Yeah, if you were looking for any praise from our side, you've come to the wrong place.
What, for
well done.
100 kilometers?
No. I've seen now anything to do with difficult. Shouldn't come here for compliments, you know.
No.
I was amongst my people. It's enough.
It's really impressive, though. I mean, I could never ever do that, and I do appreciate that there are people in the world who can, and they're few and far between. I mean, there's like a couple of hundred of you who actually put yourselves through things like that, and I mean, it must be an incredible sense of achievement when you finished. But you said you're feeling old because you can't do it anymore like you used to.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It was my first mountain run in 4 years, so maybe I should have done maybe a couple of 40Ks, 50Ks, get back into it. Last time I did this race, I did it 4 hours faster. So it was like I was a different animal back then. Plus, I'd done like 100 milers, 250K races, So this was the hardest race for me I've ever done because it's the most pain I've ever felt. Now I know what people at the back feel like. Like, for me to take 17 hours to do this was like, oh, geez, I should be between 13 and 15 at most. But yeah, it was awesome.
I can tell your energy is a bit low today. I'm not surprised.
Tracy says it was a gruesome race. How about that Courtney who came 8th overall? Crazy race. A good friend of mine finished 97th overall and second women's vet. I'm in awe of anyone who's run that. I mean, yes, absolutely. What was the winning time, says Moonchild? Do you know?
9 hours 47 was the winning time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, American guy, Jim Wormsley. He's the Tiger Woods of mountain running. He's insane.
The Tiger Woods of mountain running, and none of us have heard of him except you.
How do you fuel yourself? How do you fuel yourself?
Well, you got to carry your stuff with you. So you're always carrying bars and protein bars and a little bit of food. And then every 10Ks, you got food. I mean, you train before this as well. This isn't Sally who feels like she needs to start a yoga class and wakes up and goes on a whim for discovery points. You know, you
Do
train for
you-
like 4 or 5 months.
Do
and
you feel
condition
like
your body.
absolute shit after you've done 17 hours?
No.
What do you feel
you
like?
train.
So you ran this on what, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Like, where exactly was it? Because then you came back on
Saturday.
Obviously, I'm assuming. Oh, so you flew back Saturday.
No, I flew back last night. So
And
Saturday.
How did you move? Because your legs must have been sore, your body must have been
Oh.
tired. How do you move around the airport? And that airport in Cape Town, they make you walk. You're like, oh God, here's another 17 hours just to try and get from the parking to the plane.
Shattered. Like I'll tell you, my legs are even now just absolutely shattered. My quads are completely done. So I don't mind walking upstairs, but walking downstairs right now.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like giving birth out of my quads. That's what it feels like. Oh.
Wow.
But an awesome feeling. I mean, it did remind me it's my favorite thing in the world to do. So we'll roll out a few more early next year for sure. 100 Ks, 100 milers. Let's get back into it, you know?
Cabello says, what the fuck, Mbulelo? You want to kill yourself? Congratulations. So the president was on last night, and he made a lot of sense. I mean, I can't really fault him. Like, he was quite sensible. Yeah, I have no problem with anything he said.
Are you
He's
okay?
Like, you know,
Did you also run the race?
Well, no, man. And let me explain. So he was basically, he's being the only adult in the room. All these countries that have prevented us suddenly put us on a red list, prevented us from traveling. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And I was expecting our government to do the same and like, oh God, no, we're going to impose more lockdowns and shit. And he didn't. He was sensible about it. Thank God.
Even the WHO has said these countries are being premature in putting up these bans. Bless you.
Oh. Sneezing.
You're on mute,
He
Gareth.
didn't?
Yes.
No, I can't be on mute.
No.
Am I still on mute?
No, you're fine. You're fine now.
Okay.
Oh no, this has turned
So
into one of those work meetings. Oh, yeah,
he made absolute sense. Like, he was adult and set and reasonable, and he's like, we're not imposing more restrictions on people. We're not going to suddenly stop you from doing X, Y, and Z. No interprovincial travel bans and all that shit. He's like, we're just going to carry on. We've got these things in place. Get vaccinated if you're not vaccinated. But we're not going to put a mandate in now. If they do put in a mandate, they're going to be people who complain. And again, I don't understand how the unvaccinated pose a risk to the rest of us. I don't get. But we're not going to go down that road. Not this morning. I don't have the energy. And the fact that he admonished those countries that have put us on a red list is also good. He's like, hey, hang on, guys. We made an arrangement. We said we would not unfairly prejudice countries where these strains are discovered. We discovered it. Didn't mean we came up with it. We were the ones who foisted it on the world. It's already in most of these countries anyway. So I don't know why we should be punished for it. Know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And we're now feeling what it's like to have the stigma attached to us, the South Africa virus. You know, as much as they try and call it something else, we are being pointed at.
No, Gareth was not on mute. Don't project, Leigh-Ann.
I can't see that comment. It's only coming up on your side.
Oh, really? Well, look, I mean, he awesome. Could. Stink Mean is saying, give him 2 weeks. All those things he said are going to change. I hope not, because we've seen very little in the way of giving countries that locked down any kind of advantage over countries that didn't. This is fairly obvious now. So to go backwards here would be such a waste of time and such a stupid backward step. Yeah. Anyway, Ketan wants to know, morning, want to know what the alcohol limit when driving is. I got stopped last night at 10:30 and I had one drink. I just witnessed one guy pay a JMPD officer 1,400 Rand who was so drunk and allowed him back. I think you now can't even have one glass of wine or beer. I think that puts you over the limit now. Because, you know, they keep bringing the limit down. They think that, well, if we make it less and less, it's going to make people drive less drunk. To drunk drivers, they don't care whether they had 1 or 7, you know. So I don't know the answer.
Our psychology is so broken to that.
Yeah, don't even try. No. Mole, you look like a funky Star Wars character with a shade on your face.
I know. At one point, it looked like a Maori tattoo, and I was like, "Oh, cultural misappropriation."
Oh yeah, you would have been in trouble. Transformers: The Age of Omicron, and it's called Omicron, so people are already coming up with nicknames for this strain. They're saying it's the Cron, so it's also like coronavirus. So have you got the Cron? That's what people are saying to each other now.
So they missed out on two. There was one 2-letter word that they were going to use, and then the one after that they also skipped out on was XI or she, and that's because it's a popular name in China, obviously.
Oh well, I don't know why we're protecting China's. Why are we protecting China's feelings? There is a country that does deserve the blame for coming up with coronavirus. We shouldn't be looking after them. Because President Xi's name is XI. We should have gone with the Xi version. I mean, for fuck's sake, they didn't have a problem calling it the South African version back in December.
They could have called it Van Skalkwyk for all we care.
Yeah, exactly. Bloody hell. Just because it's Xi, we don't upset the Chinese. Why do the Chinese get treated with kid gloves when they're the ones who foisted this on us, if you don't mind? In Australia, you're allowed to drink and drive. They call you a traveler. It's not illegal as long as you're not over the limit. Well, I mean, the limit's probably tiny. Yeah. Sandile says 0.05 grams per 100 mil. I don't know what that is. Anyway, I mean, you didn't get arrested, right, Ketan? So it is a Monday morning. There's lots to get into this morning. If you want to, Mbulelo is going to give us a little preview of what's coming up on Cliff Central Sport today. And we're also going to just sort out what the precise rules are that we're going to have now for traveling, because there are different rules that come into play. And I really hope, I was thinking last night of all these families who are, who had plans for Christmas with their friends and family, and now they're not going to be able to join them because of these new restrictions. My sister-in-law's sister is out here from the Middle East somewhere, and she can't get back now. So she's going to have to make, alternative arrangements. I met some other people at a memorial service who said to me they came out from England for this, and now they can't go back. So they're going to have to spend a couple of weeks here until all of this is changed. Now, imagine, December's on our doorstep. This week is the 1st of December. And you suddenly find yourself stuck in a country or stuck on your own somewhere else. I mean, fine if you're stuck in the same country as the people you're visiting and you're happy to be there and they've got place for you to stay and all the rest of it. But you imagine how this adds to people's costs. And then if you do go back to a place like the UK, you have to quarantine yourself in a hotel at your expense for like £3,000 or £4,000.
Imagine you've left your kids behind, or they're traveling with you and now they can't do school and stuff. Oh, what?
Yep. Oh, yeah. So this is not great. This is not good for anybody. And I just think it's so awkward and unfair for these people. This is the time of year you make plans. You try to have something organized in the diary for Christmas and New Year and family time and all that stuff. So I think there's going to be a lot of very, very unhappy people. So
how long are we going to have to hear about this? Like, this is the world now. Like at some stage, grown-ups go like, okay, this is the world now. We can't continue to have a whinge every Christmas. It's 3 Christmases in a row now. I know it's awful, but part of being a grown-up is life can be awful, isn't it?
So you have to make changes in your own life, right?
Yeah, adjust.
That's what you got to do.
The world is as it is, not how you want it to be.
Well, that's why I think I'm putting any plans I had for next year and international travel on hold, because I can see that this isn't going away anytime soon. And even though I had all kinds of ambitions, I was busy planning a whole lot of stuff that I was going to do next year. And it was getting exciting, and I was about this close to booking flights and things. And I just decided, nope, this is not going to happen. Hold on a little bit. So it's
called managing your own expectations.
Yeah, and if that means that I've got to spend another year in South Africa, it's not the end of the world. I'll make it work for me. There's got to be a reason for this. There's something that we all have to get out of this. And I know it's very irritating and it's extremely frustrating. And for some people, it's the worst thing that could have happened to them. But I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to just carry on. I've got things to do.
Very positive this morning, Gareth. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah, I am feeling positive. I looked at even this weather that we've had, all this rain that we've had recently, and it's not really the summer that we were promised, right? Yet. I mean, it'll be warm again this week, apparently, and looks like it's going to improve. But what are you going to do? You're going to rage against the machine and rage against the weather? What's the point? It's nothing worse than someone who just moans the whole time, and we're not going to be those people. Yeah. So let's get on with it. I do like the way that
the guy we spoke to on Friday. What was his name?
Marco. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I showed that video to my mom, and she cried. She was just so in awe. And that just links back to the whole thing of stop complaining. Your life isn't that
bad. Correct.
Yes. Yeah. Please stop complaining. Oh my God, the amount of complaining that go like these people. Jesus, why'd you take off work? I had a cold. Like, crikey, do me a favor. Oh my God, the complaining. I actually can't stand it. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, Gareth, I think I've been working here long enough now. It's like, if there's one thing I try not to do is to complain about the circumstance. Like, just get on with it. What is wrong with people?
Also, other people aren't going to, they're going to give you lip service and pretend that they're listening to you while you're moaning. But really, they don't want to hear that either. Is there anything worse than hearing someone else? Is there anything worse than hearing someone else moan about their lives? And even if you're a really empathetic person and you really do care and you feel deeply for other people, even then, it's got to be exhausting for you. Because ultimately, these other people just drains you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read some books this December. I'm going to read some books this December. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to spend my time doing things I enjoy.
You're either a liability or an asset to people, right? Like, if you're whinging the whole time, you're just a liability in everyone's lives, and no good. Nobody needs that, especially in these times. Like, life's hard enough now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's that time of year where people are kind of overwork and they're ready for a break and they want to be around positive and optimistic people. And my God, I find it extremely difficult to, even on WhatsApp or on the phone, to be talking to people who are just downers. And there are so many people whose just their entire life is about fear, about being pessimistic, being nervous. Things are hard, moaning, whinging, being afraid of the world. And I'm like, no, you guys are missing out on all the good stuff. There's so much good stuff. Like, being alive is actually great. Of course, it's challenging sometimes, but it's great. Would you rather never have been alive, like that Professor David Benatar says? You know, the guy at UCT, he's a philosopher. I interviewed him not so long ago. And he says, no, it's better to have never existed. To foist this life on people is just a punishment that they don't deserve. And I'm like, why? Why would you say that? I think it's, you take the good with the bad. Of course, you're going to have to deal with, death and difficulty and tragedy. And some people's lives really are full to the brim of tragedy. And I understand if they're a bit more, depressed than the rest of us. But the good, those highs of those, when you stand outside and you look at a beautiful view, or you look up at the sky and you realize how far and wide and vast this earth is, and how you're just this tiny little piece of it, and it's not about you. It's the best feeling.
It's like taking mushrooms.
Yeah, I guess in a sense. So to your point of feeling useless, so part of mountain running, part of the pleasure of it is that, like, mountains are massive, and you can choose to whinge. Mountain just doesn't care. It'll still be there. You can climb it or not. Don't worry about it. Nobody cares, pal. You gave up and you quit. And that is an awesome analogy. But On the whinging thing, I had two great sort of lunches while I was in Cape Town, and geez, one person is like on the executive panel of some of the most elite events in this country, health and lifestyle, so running and cycling and stuff. And then the other guy was in charge of, so not the malaria pills we have now, but the last strain of malaria pills we had. He was in charge of sort of the research and drive on that project. And it was just so awesome to listen to people talk practically about the future, like geared up for it. It was amazing to what you've been saying this morning.
I just don't understand how we haven't defeated like malaria yet, because malaria has been around a shitload of time. I mean, it's been there since time immemorial, right? People being stung in the swamps.
We're actually quite close with malaria. I saw something recently. So. I think people's expectations have changed now that we've been able to develop a COVID vaccine so quickly, relatively quickly.
Yeah.
So I did see something quite recently about malaria. The other thing is cancer, but the thing is, there's so many different varieties and forms that it's a tough one.
Patrick says it's
and
easier.
Science is really young.
Patrick says to the point about like people who are having a tough time and their life is really hard. Patrick says it's easier said than done for people suffering from depression and mental illness. It's pretty insensitive to say that to those sufferers. Well, I mean, insensitivity is my middle name. So what do you want me to do?
I mean, obviously there are cases which are different. We're talking generally.
Yeah, there are genuine victims in life, but we mustn't make the anomaly the rule. Like, with all due respect.
G-Man says you need to get a life. You lot, that's us. We need to get a life and show some compassion for people that are struggling. Knocking them is not helping them. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot of energy for that. I really don't. It's up to the people in their lives to give them all that compassion. This is not the place you come to for that. I'm sorry.
You know what? If you're looking for a representative of somebody who's battling, then that's me. And even I can say, in general, we should all be looking up at the sky and looking for the rainbows and the positivity.
Look, I get that there are people suffering, but I don't think that you're suffering any worse than all the generations of humans that have come before you. There's no way that you're having as tough a time as they are. You're not surviving from day to day, just trying to fill your stomach, find some shelter, those basic things. In other words, that life is not as hard for the average human being today as it's been for any other human being, even just yesterday. It's getting easier and better to be human. And many people are looking for a purpose or a meaning in their life, but many other people are also looking for a reason to complain and to feel sorry for themselves. And they like this because this is what gets you attention in the modern world, is if you go online and you complain about how difficult your life is, you get a whole bunch of people saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for you. It's so hard to be you." And I'm not that person. You can find it everywhere. There's lots of it. You watch television shows where people are commiserating with each other. You hear these groups of people who get together and they sit in a circle and they all support each other. That's not what this show is. There's plenty of those things. Go and find it with them. It's not going to happen here. So to all those people who are complaining that we're not compassionate enough, find it. Find it somewhere else. It's not here. G-Man says, you are the media. You spread the fear to start with. Not us. There's been no fear here. Not from the beginning of coronavirus have I said this is a fearful place. And I'm not going to be afraid, and I haven't been. I got over this thing end of March last year. So don't say we added fear. Now knocking those who are struggling because the fear-mongering is inconsiderate. The media started the fear, and now you knock it. Yes, we didn't start the fire. Sorry, not here.
But the burn,
Somebody sent me those lyrics yesterday, ironically.
Oh,
it's so great. Yeah.
Great
Harry
song.
Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray, South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Joe DiMaggio, Joe McCarthy, Richard Nixon, Studer, Baker, Television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole thing.
I remember hooking up with someone's girlfriend at the dude's house to that song. That's whenever I hear that song.
That is low.
And he walked
That's
in,
great.
and that was pretty awkward at his own birthday. Very awkward.
Sis Mbulelo.
I was like
That's
15, Leigh-Ann. What do you want to do? What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
But again, I didn't start the fire.
So,
But the bed
also
was
to the winner go the spoils. You know?
That's he didn't
Life
get
is
that
a
though. He picked,
competition. I hate to say this to people when we're already being lambasted for being not necessarily as compassionate as we should be. But life is hard, and it's also fun, and it's also a competition. And to the victor go the spoils. So for those people who are going to sit and mope all the time, you're just going to get left behind. And I'm sorry, there's no space for that. Get up, do things. You can make choices today that will make your life much, much better. Or you can sit there and wallow in your own misery.
Thank you. I wish. Where were you when I was 15 and this guy came in and I was making out with his girlfriend? He needed to hear what you're saying now.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just
and then
that
he kicked me out of his house.
You lost. You lost. Mbulelo is more attractive to her than you are. He made the move, or she made the move on him. You are the weakest link. Cheers.
Homebreaker.
No, he was 15. It was a nice house, but then he kicked me out. Very awkward. No Uber back then. Took forever for me to get picked up. But
so, Patrick just wants to clarify something because he was the one who started this whole "we're not compassionate" thing. He says, "Believe me, it came out incorrect per se. I don't think those sufferers should impose what they're going through on positive people. I agree. Victim mentality is shit. I just feel for those suffering. Well, good. Then we need people like you to be compassionate because God knows, that some of us are not as good at that as you are. Again, competition. Like in the competition of being emotional and empathetic and kind and caring, Patrick would win. Mbulelo and I are at the back of the queue when it comes to that stuff. And thank goodness we're not all the same. Thank goodness that there are people who are compassionate and who are gentle and genuine and caring and thoughtful and listen and all that stuff. And then there are people who don't. There are people who do the other stuff. We need both. We need everybody. Natalie says, my worst is people who moan for years and refuse to change. If you don't want to do anything to be better and to do better, you don't get to complain. No, you always get to complain. You can complain as much as you want. Just don't expect everyone to listen. So again, I'm not telling you to change your behavior. I don't mind that at all. Just don't impose your misery on people and then expect that they will keep on taking it, even if they're family or friends. You see so many relationships where one of the partners in the relationship is very needy and they keep kind of forcing the other person to bear some of their burden. And maybe they have a really, they have a difficult life. Maybe it is a mental illness or a chemical condition. Thank God we've got Dr. Hanan on today. But eventually that partner just goes, okay, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore. And then they have to get out of the relationship. And then that person who was hoping for the other one to shoulder some of their burden now has nothing to lean on because they've leaned so hard on that person that person decided to get out of the way. And then the whole thing crumbles. You don't want that, In any relationship, you can't have that. Even a friendship, if there's a friend who's always like, they need constant affirmation and they've got insecurities, and eventually the rest of the people in that friendship circle are going to go, oof, let's not invite that person this week because I think they're a bit heavy. And I think they're making it difficult to have fun because that does happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not do amateur psychology when we've got a professional joining us later. And we will, by the way, on the Dr. Hanan thing, we're going to talk to somebody who has an issue. And this is really interesting. It's Sarah. She's got a tricky family relationship, and she'll tell us about that because the holidays are coming. And you're going to be, you're going to be foisted with relatives that you don't necessarily like, or ones that you don't mind, but they don't make the Christmas table fun. So
imagine this.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, go ahead, Leigh-Ann. No, Leigh-Ann was saying.
I'm sorry, at this age, when you get thrown off track, you've got to really think hard to get back on. We forget that in America, people live in completely different areas to where they grew up, and they're all going home for the holidays. And I've seen a bit of a trend on TikTok where they're showing their parents their new tattoos that they've got over the last year. And the parents just reacting and going, what have you done to yourself? What is this? Why have you got a cloud? What is this? I can't believe you've done this to yourself. You've changed so much.
What happened? And to that parent's point, what happens if your parents, let's say you live in South Africa, they live in the UK. What happens if they came to visit 2 weeks ago? And now, let's say you don't like the parent, and now they're stuck in your house. Imagine your mother-in-law now is stuck at your house now.
The worst. All right, so quick overview of some headlines, just so you know what's going on. So South Africa is going to remain on level 1, and the government is mulling the idea of mandatory vaccines as the fourth wave looms. So we're just going to have to wait and see what happens there. But Australia's reopening plans, they are going to review their plans to reopen borders to skilled migrants and students from December the 1st. Prime Minister Scott Morrison said that on Monday after the country reported the first cases of Omicron. Oh, but I thought you guys with your lockdown, you wouldn't ever get sick. How did that happen, Australia? The Japanese government plans to effectively close borders to all foreigners from this month. An official announcement will be made as early as Monday afternoon. That's the Japanese. And a lot of people are saying, including our president, that the international community have acted precipitously. He warned that restricting South African travelers is not informed by science, nor will it be effective in preventing the spread of the Omicron coronavirus variant. Now, apparently, according to our own Medical Sciences Research Council, this Omicron variant is not necessarily more dangerous. It seems to have only mild flu symptoms. And it seems the effect of this is not nearly as bad as people had predicted for a new strain. So we'll wait and see. The person who said that, Dr. Angelique Coetzee, is the South African doctor who first spotted this new COVID variant. And she says, extremely mild symptoms, but more time is needed before we know the seriousness of this disease for vulnerable people. So there we are. That's the latest we have on that. And that's more than enough, if you ask me, about coronavirus for this morning. Gun-free South Africa has called on youngsters to have their say on gun control. I don't know how this gun-free South Africa exists. I don't know who supports them. I don't know who's paying for them to exist. I don't know why they're around. But South Africans, according to them, especially youngsters affected by gun violence, are being called on to have their say in the control of firearms. Yeah, because people who live in gang neighborhoods and who are affected by gun violence, of course, all of those people are having this done to them by legal gun owners. Obviously. So all we need to do is make more rules. That's what Gun-Free South Africa says, except that it isn't legal gun owners that are the bad people here. These people who are perpetrating gun violence are people who have illegal firearms, and they're already not complying with the law. So Gun-Free South Africa, what more laws do you want to bring in to control people who are already not listening to the laws that exist? You dummies. Anyway, anti-gun lobbyists have been given another chance to engage with stakeholders around a proposed bill that will see personal gun ownership come to an end. You can get utterly fucked if you think that legal gun owners in South Africa are going to suddenly comply with some draconian law that forces them to give up the only bit of personal protection they still have. Because when the police can't be trusted, which we know is the case, and when the police don't pitch up when you need them, guess what? You've only got your own gun to rely on. And if these morons at Gun-Free South Africa think that the rest of us are just going to allow violence and theft and stupidity to reign, then they haven't read the tea leaves properly. So good luck to them. Anyway, Gun-Free Director for South Africa, Adele Kirsten, said this is an opportunity for those directly affected by guns to make their voices heard. Gun-Free South Africa is standing alongside other organizations such as Child Safe, UCT's Children's Institute. You see, they always use, that's what these people do who don't have guns, is they use children as their human shields. I know that sounds outrageous.
I was going to say.
Exactly what's happening. It's always these children's organizations. They hold the children up in front of the guns and they say, we need these children to be protected. But who's going to protect the children? Who, you, without your gun? When some child molester is walking through the neighborhood, what would you like to do?
My biggest issue, like whatever, we probably sit on opposite ends of the gun spectrum thing, but I'm not even worried about the gun thing here. What society that is functional has ever listened to the children to make decisions this important? This is crazy. This
point
is
is, it's
crazy what they're saying.
They're not listening to the children. They're using the children as a reason to get their. These kids, and most kids are not growing up with gun violence in their lives. The ones that are growing up in neighborhoods that are so out of control that the only way to bring them back into control is to let the people in those neighborhoods who are good people have guns to protect themselves. Sorry. Anyway, I mean, this is dumb. And if I were you, I would do everything I could in my life to not listen to anyone who says they're from gun-free South Africa. Be like wasting your time talking to a fish underwater. Woman in Australia has set fire to a quarantine hotel. And she's been charged.
She's like
a 31-year-old woman.
That's a bit dramatic.
Relax. Yes.
Yeah.
Calm the fuck down, Margaret.
She's been charged with arson after a fire destroyed part of a COVID-19 quarantine hotel in Cairns, in Queensland. It's alleged she lit a fire under the bed in a room she'd been sharing with her 2 children on Sunday morning.
That's so clever.
Yeah, I know. Well, you can imagine how... You want to see how shit this hotel is, by the way?
Well, she did start the fire. So there's a certain song she could never play.
I'll show you a picture of this. I would have set fire to this hotel myself. See how ugly it is. Oh, it's the worst. Now, I don't know how long you have to spend in these quarantine hotels in Australia, but let me show you what it looks like, and you tell me if you wouldn't have set fire to this place. Imagine 2 weeks you have to sit in there with your 2 kids driving you crazy. Probably really shitty substandard room service. Look at this place.
Oh, well, that's the burnt bit, right?
Yeah, that's the burnt bit.
But still, it wasn't great to begin with.
No. It looks like absolute shit. But anyway, I mean, what a horrible place to have to be for 2 weeks or whatever the time period is that they put you in there. And she's now being charged with arson, and it's not going well for her, poor woman. But,
she just made her problems worse.
I know. Don't set fire to things. This is not good. Anyway.
Great starting point. Great starting point. Don't set fire to things.
Don't set fire to things. It's usually quite a good way of making your life a little bit better, not worse. All right. Those are all the headlines you need to know about. But South Africa has also, we've got Miss South Africa. And apparently our Miss SA is preparing for the Miss Universe pageant. And she has vowed to shed light on women's issues. Okay. I thought you were just going
let's remember that she's going without South Africa's support because of the Israel thing.
Outrageous.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
But is she a graduate of any sort? Like, why do I need to hear from her about women's issues?
No, you don't.
Has she thought it through?
No, she's good looking. She's good looking, looks good in clothes.
Oh, that is tricky for me. Once a woman's good looking, it is really tricky. I will listen to her say anything she's not qualified to say.
Yes, that's my point of view as well. All right, so it's going to be okay with Dr. Hanan, is what we do on a Monday. If you have a particular problem in your life that you would like to deal with, then you may do that by sending us an email. Send it to contact@cliffcentral.com. Here is Dr. Hanan, who is joining us this morning. He's got another. When do you actually close down over December? Do you get a break?
Yeah, I'm closing down on the 17th. I'm going away on the 21st if interprovincial travel is allowed.
Yeah, I think that should be fine, but it must be annoying for you because you might even. Do you have some kind of rule with your patients that they're not allowed to call you while you're on holiday?
I'm one of those therapists that I do make myself available. They can call me anytime, and people do respect those. People respect natural, compassionate and appropriate boundaries. So it kind of works out. It's okay.
Thank God. If they don't appreciate those boundaries, you have to cut them loose.
Just drop them.
See, that's what we were talking about this morning. All right, so Dr. Hanan, it's this time of year when people are getting together for the holidays. But it's not always festive, and there are often clashes between family members. It's something that's come up in our discussions before. So today we're joined by Sarah, and that's not her real name, but we're going to ask her to explain her story. I'm also going to keep her anonymous so her camera's off. But Sarah, you've got a tricky family situation, and you want to ask Dr. Hanan how you're going to deal with this. So I'm going to put Sarah on. There's no picture, but we can hear her. So, Sarah, go ahead and tell us what the story is with you and your family situation.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. In light of what you spoke about this morning, this really is not meant to come across as a victim issue or woe is me, but more about what is the best way to handle a frosty stepmother who came into our lives 18 years ago, pretty much the day my mother died, and has managed to impose her incredibly toxic, abusive, revolting, tricky personality onto both my sister, myself, even my father,
Sure.
family, friends, and her children. We managed to see her and my father probably once a year. They don't live in the same city that we do. My sister also lives abroad and doesn't want to come back to South Africa to see her or my father. At the moment, everybody is in the same town for a family wedding. So Captain Frosty is here. My sister is here. We'll see what happens with her having to stay here or being able to fly out. And I think the real trick is she's here for a week. We have to see her with my father. Mm-hmm. She'll be back with my father over Christmas. And it's the first time that our families are spending Christmas together in over 10 years. Wow. So how do we handle her and without getting triggered by her really petty, pretty much passive-aggressive nature?
She sounds horrible. I just sorry, Dr. Hanan. I need a little bit of a description here. So she sounds like a really horrible person. Is she outward? You say passive aggressive, but does she make everybody around her unhappy? I mean, what's the motivator here? Does she like being in control? What's the story? I just need to understand.
It's such a weird thing because, I mean, before she came into our family setup, we had quite a happy family. I mean, we could rip each other off. Nobody took things seriously. Nobody sweated the small stuff. Everybody's personality was accepted. It was a really good situation. And now we have to walk on eggshells. I don't understand why my father is with her. I'm obviously missing something. It's either that or I'm starting to wonder if he's into abuse. But so to answer your question, she has managed to sever relationships that my father and my mother had for years. She's unable to have relationships at this stage with one of her daughters, and that's recently ended, and with my sister and I. My father often says, look at what she's done. Isn't this lovely what she's done? Have you thanked her? Which obviously is not something we really want to do. So I don't understand how she gets away with so much power and how she has this ability to almost make you feel quite nervous about stepping out of line and actually just saying to her, who the hell do you think you are? I think because you know what's going to come after that.
Why do you have to walk on eggshells around her? What's the reason? Have you ever tried speaking up? What had happened when you did?
Yeah, so there's been a few times. I think every single time I've been in her presence for more than 3 days, it's been incredibly testy and there's been very heated exchanges. And that's not really who I am and who my family are. But about 4 or 6 years ago, my husband and I arrived on Christmas Day to see my father, and she was there. And we got an incredibly icy welcome. She left as soon as we arrived to go visit a neighbor, looked down on us. And I went for a walk with my husband and said, I think we need to leave. And he said, cool, I'm happy. Let's do what you need to do, but I'm not staying in this house. I went back to the house. I said to my dad, I wanted to speak to him. I asked him, this is probably the 10th time that I've asked him to please stand up for me when she speaks to me like that. And why doesn't he stand up for me? And he just goes mute. And we got in the car and left, and he was shock, horror. Why have you done that? She turned around and told me how selfish I was for doing that. And I said, maybe she should look at herself because she's pretty much the selfish person. And we never spoke for whatever, 4-6 years after that. We still don't speak. I'll tolerate her. So that's kind of what happens when we do speak up. It becomes incredibly testy. She has a mood swing. My father goes mute and goes into her defense.
So if your dad was in this conversation with us, and I asked him, so what do you feel about her? I mean, he's been with her for 18 years. He would say she is what?
I ask myself that all the time.
You obviously.
Maybe she makes some good food.
She certainly adds value to his world, right? I mean, that's why he's with her, because if she didn't add value, whatever that is, he wouldn't be with her. Tell me, what's your relationship like with your dad?
So there wasn't much of a relationship growing up. He just worked all the time. When my mom died, I think he realized that he had to start having relationships with us. I'm quite open, so I would start sharing lots of stuff with him. He just goes mute. So the relationship now is he calls a lot. We don't see each other that much, maybe once a year, as I said earlier. I love him and I feel really sad for him. So I think the way that I approach him is I'm always trying to make sure that he's happy, or checking in with him, is everything going all right? But he just keeps referring or deferring back to kind of being on her page, and I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but it's almost as though the conversations that come from him have got her thinking behind it, which is just so strange and just so not my father.
And how long are they coming down for now?
So they'll be down for a week now, and then in 3 weeks' time, they'll be back for Christmas.
And how long is that for?
Another week.
Another week. So look, this is what I think. First of all, as I said now, she obviously adds some value to your dad's world. As a sum total, there's plus for him. She does something, whether he needs somebody, maybe since the loss of your mom, and I'm just assuming maybe he needed somebody to control the situation, he needed somebody to pilot his world, and she seems to be a controlling person, and he seems to hold on to that. That's what a lot of time happens when somebody goes through turmoil. They don't lean on weaknesses, they overcompensate, and they lean on overly strong, overly controlling, overly demanding, people that put you in line. And if we had to have the opposite for him, and I've seen this a lot, at least in my practice, if, for example, your dad listened to you and he said, you know what, I'm going to let go of this because I can do better. A lot of the time, Sarah, they actually fall apart because they need that stability in their lives. Now, I'm not saying she's in the long run healthy for him, but in the short run, it's like a drug addict. If a drug addict is 85 years old and they've been smoking, let's just say 20 cigarettes a day, and it's unhealthy for them, if we tell them to quit now, they actually get worse. So sometimes we kind of say it's the lesser of the two evils. But what I would say for you is, sometimes life puts you in a position where you have a choice between good and good. In other words, whatever you choose, you're going to gain. And sometimes life puts you in an even easier position where you have a choice between good and bad. And the contrast is so stark that it's just an easy decision to choose where you would win, where you would gain. But sometimes life puts you in a position where you have a choice between lose and lose, terrible and disgusting, horrible and despicable. And you have to make a choice where you would not win, but rather lose less. And in this case, obviously you love your dad, obviously you want the best for him, and you see in the long run, perhaps this is not ideal for him, but the choice that you have is speak up, set boundaries, and there's conflict, or don't speak up and don't set boundaries, and obviously you feel that sense of despair for your dad. So either way, you're going to lose. There's a cost to it. My suggestion to you is pick a God to serve. Pick a God to serve. Because you can't serve, I want what's best for my dad, and at the same time, I want what's best for me. You can't, because that means you're going to be sitting in limbo, you're going to sit on the fence. My advice to you, and this is very, very superficial based on our 7-minute conversation now, is to accept, if you value your relationship with your dad, then at least he's coming for a week and another week. It's 2 weeks in total. Let him leave knowing that there's peace with his children. Let him leave knowing that you don't necessarily support what he's doing, but at least there's no conflict and he doesn't feel that you're against what he's doing. So if I were you, I would just kind of grin and bear it for the next 2 weeks and at least just service the God of making sure that your dad's decision, or just following or supporting your dad's decision, is smiling or grinning through it. So I wouldn't fight. I wouldn't set boundaries. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't conflict. I would just act as though you want your dad to be, I'm assuming you do, you want your dad to be happy in the next 2 weeks. It's just 2 weeks cost it's a little cost to gain benefit in the long run.
Grin and bear it, in other words.
Grin and bear it. Grin and bear it.
Sorry. I think that's pretty much been the way I've been operating for 18 years. But what starts to happen is that you just start sucking up and keeping quiet when quite rude statements get made or snide remarks get made. I think that at a point you just carry on accepting that, and I suppose it becomes quite tough to figure out what is the best of the two evils.
So you know what? What you have to accept is two things. Number one, that there is a cost to whatever you're going to choose. There's no perfect solution. Yeah. Perfect solution is your dad making perhaps a better decision for himself and the whole family in the long run. But it is what it is. This is what's going on, and we have to work around it. And what I would say to you is that...
Can I just ask, what kind of things does she say to you? I mean, how horrible is she?
I see your daughter doesn't know how to pack a dishwasher.
Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Like these nasty remarks, I see it so often. You know, guys, it's a kind of underhanded remarks that take a dig. They just are so finely tuned to take a dig. But
what a bitch.
Sarah, I want to tell you that there's obviously the fact that your dad is not making a move. There's a cost. And the cost, or the fact that your dad's not setting boundaries, there's a cost. And the cost is to your relationship with him. He's gone to bed knowing that, or not knowing, that by him not standing up to his wife, it affects his relationship with his daughters. So what I would say to you is create natural distance. You don't have to be nasty. You don't have to be horrible. You don't have to engage in conflict, but create natural distance, which you naturally have. You see your dad once a year. Between you and your dad, and the relationship is healthier, but it's much more superficial. That's the cost. But what I want you to accept is that there's no perfect solution. You are marrying a God, you're serving a God, but obviously the other gods that you wish you could have served is actually not being fulfilled, and that's okay.
Well, somebody says here, Carl says, shame, Sarah is the only person who is disappointed that the president didn't ban interprovincial travel. And then there's I know this isn't, we're trying to be sensible here, and thank you, Dr. Hanan, but Corona's Boring says, I've got a friend who had a grandmother like that. His uncle pushed her down the stairs. I thought it was a bit cruel until I met her. Justified. He should have used the lift shaft.
Oh, my God.
No, I love that.
Wow.
I mean, my sister's conversation to her, I think the last time they spoke, which was probably 11 years ago, she said to my sister, I know I'm not your mother. I know I'm not. And my sister went, intelligent. And she said, I was going to say well-read. And my sister said, no, I think intelligent is the word you're looking for.
Oh, wow. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, you can actually have fun with it if you think about it. Entertain yourself with good comebacks.
So in other words, what Dr. Hanan is saying, like, pretend you are some kind of intermediary between, like the various powers in World War I. Go back to World War I, and you have to stop the war from breaking out. That's pretty much your job over these 2 weeks that you're going to be around them. Just stop the war from breaking out.
I'm just saying, don't put pressure on yourself to find a perfect solution to this Rubik's Cube where there isn't a perfect solution. There's a cost, whatever position you take. And if I were you, I would smile, grin, and bear it. I would try make your dad leave thinking, even though it's a completely false thinking, oh my God, things are peaceful. Then you've won the battle. And then obviously the cost is to create that natural distance between you and your dad, but that's a natural cost.
Well, our audience have lots of other solutions. Robin says poison. Poison is the only solution.
I 100% agree.
Oh, no.
Sadly, says Tracy, there are no winners here. Yeah, I'm afraid that's right.
Absolutely, that's quite right.
You know, Doc, you're not always going to be able to find a perfect way out of things, and sometimes it is too complicated. So you just have to choose the path of least resistance or the path of least damage.
Absolutely, that's quite right.
I suppose this is the advice for today. So there are lots of people saying, "Oh, but come on, Dr. Hanan, it sounds like you're just putting up with this stuff, and you shouldn't have to put up with it." But I think, we don't know all the details. But from what Sarah's saying, this woman is a terrible, terrible thunder bitch. And you just don't want to. You don't want to be. You don't want to add. You don't want to pile on pressure on your poor dad. He's probably
absolutely.
He probably feels it. And frankly, I mean, let him at least spend the majority of his time with her, and not having to worry about the conflict.
That's the key. That's the key. You don't want to be a cowboy here. Like, of course, it would be a lot more entertaining for me to come on and say, just tell you to get your dad to get divorced, and push right back against her, and all the audience will go, yeah, you go, Dr. Hanan. But the truth is, I don't believe it. I think sometimes, as I said, life is a bit too complicated to find a perfect solution to everything, and there's a cost to this, and that's the cost. So at least satisfy and make sure that your dad leaves feeling a little bit of peace in his heart, especially since you have a good relationship with him. That's what I think.
Yeah. But maybe,
Thank you so much.
There is this, Sarah, just before we let you go, because we've got like a minute left of this. Robin says, make your dad put his money in a trust. That's very important.
I think that's done. That's good.
Okay.
Excellent.
Then someone saying, Gentle Inflatable says, give her a laxative in her spaghetti sauce as revenge. That could be fun. Don't let it. Yeah, these are good ideas, but of course, these do not come with Dr. Hanan's stamp of approval.
Like,
I would try to.
You've got me thinking now. How legal is it to spike someone's food with stuff?
Mary says, I would try to have fun with this. She thinks I cannot unpack a dishwasher. Well, let me show you how I can't even take the dishes to the kitchen. I would be such a slob and annoy her to no end. Wow. Okay. Well, lots of good and not such good reactions. Spike the punch. Maybe she'll have a personality when she's drunk. Does she improve when she's drunk? Is that something that she does?
Pardon? Does she?
Improve when she's drunk?
No. And she's not small. She's not. And she has
not a small woman, you'll know.
No.
So she's a big, nasty person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big nasty person.
A drunk man's words are a sober man's thoughts. So alcohol never makes anyone better. If she's like this sober.
Wow.
These messages are not backed up by my personal endorsements. Let's just put it out there.
Definitely not.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan. Just distance yourself from these comments. I agree. All right. Thanks so much, Sarah. I'm sorry. I hope Christmas is bearable for you. And, there are going to be those moments where you can look at your husband and laugh about what she's just said, and kind of just smile at each other in the kitchen while she carries on in a cycle of misery.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Dr. Hanan, we'll see you next week. Good stuff, Sarah.
See you then. Bye, guys.
All right. Cheers. Wow. Sounds horrible, huh?
Yo, that is awful. The term there's a philosophical thing. It's called a cornelial dilemma. It's when, like Dr. Hanan was saying, that it's when both choices are detrimental. Because if she says something to her dad, oh, you don't love me now. She doesn't say anything now. She has to now be told how to pack a dishwasher in her own house. Imagine. Yeah.
Oh, anyway. I mean, she sounds like it. She sounds truly awful. There are some people who just...
so grateful I'm single.
You almost want to meet this. I want to meet this woman. I love, actually getting into the presence of someone who is just completely bad or completely good. Because most of us have both sides, right? We're all kind of a mix of characteristics. But if you can meet someone who's just thoroughly awful, and you know straight away that they're just a terrible person you don't want to spend any time with, I do find those people interesting. I find them fascinating to be around because they are so absolutely black or white. There's no gray in between, so great. Anyway, I'm sorry, Sarah. Good luck to you. It's not great for you, but I'd love to meet this woman. Just see how awful she is. She sounds truly, truly revolting.
A thunder
Okay.
bitch.
A thunder bitch. All right. It is Monday. It is just after 7 o'clock. It's almost the end of November. CliffCentral.com.
Yo, I put it like, wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me. I hope they know by now.
Do you suffer from collectivism?
I've got this love affair with French antiques.
Do you have an obsession with objects?
This is a King's African Rifles bayonet.
Are you a fanatic? A devotee? Are you someone exhibiting enthusiasm or strong passion?
I've got like 4 or 5 really big trunks in the garage that are full of my Christmas decoration collection.
Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating.
Then you get the limited editions that were like 100 made worldwide.
Possibly a little weird.
So I have a collection of collections.
Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. Yebo, cliffcentral.com, Monday morning. It's time to get the Christmas decorations out. This coming weekend is when it all comes together. It's fun. I like that. Do you even bother, Mbulelo, to put up a Christmas tree at home? Is that a thing you do?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Oh, how did I know?
Are you joking?
How did I know that was you? No, I knew you would say that. You don't do anything for Christmas. Your house looks exactly the same as it does all the rest of the year, right?
Like birthdays, Christmas, whatever. I love spending time with great people in and around this, like sort of that week from the 18th until maybe the 27th. But then let's get back to it. I mean, I'm not into it.
I'm like you. I'm very practical. I'm very kind of attached to that kind of thing. But God, I love Christmas. I make exceptions for Christmas, no matter what. I can't understand. I find it very, very sad when people don't care about Christmas at all. I'm not religious, as you know, but it's just such a special time of year. It's my absolute favorite time of year. I get like a kid. I love the decorations. I love the music. I love the food. I love the family. I love all that stuff. It just gives me such happiness. So even,
I love that part.
Even practical old me suspends disbelief for like the month of December, and I just get into it, hook, line, and sinker. I love it. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah, I see that part that you just described, kind of in the middle there, spending time with family and those that are close. You know, I love that. I love that everyone for a week stops and we can all just be together. That part I love. The lights and the shopping and the consumption, I can't stand that part. But I love being with people I love. So that part's awesome. So,
Leigh-Ann, do you go home to your parents' house for Christmas, or what do? You go there for dinners and things?
As mentioned, many of my family members have died. There are just a few of us left. So we just have a small gathering.
Wait, as mentioned by
birthday,
who?
Which is fun.
Did the WHO release that? Is that like a proviso as you walk around now, Leigh-Ann?
Most of us are dead, but the ones that are left, we like to spend Christmas together.
There are only about 5 of us or so.
But the way you said
nobody's bred except for one, so we've only got one baby.
Well,
Leigh-Ann, sorry,
Carl says,
sorry, Gareth.
Go on.
No, it's just the way Leigh-Ann said it. It's almost like, she's in sort of marketing. As you walk into like a marketing meeting. Now, as you know, most of my family's dead. Now, the first quarter.
So horrible. Carl says, if I were not married and I didn't have kids, I wouldn't even own a Christmas tree. What a mess. Can we just quickly go back to Sarah's situation? Because it got me thinking, who's the worst person you've ever met? Like, I'm a bit obsessed with this. These really thoroughly shit people who traipse around the earth, just spreading misery and unhappiness and hatred and nastiness everywhere they go. They're just like they're venomous, poisonous people. I want to know who the worst person is you've ever met.
I've got one in my. So my grandfather passed away, and my gran remarried. So he's not a blood relative. He's now passed. He was 102 when he died. So we really had to dig deep to last those years. But his son, oh my God, what a terrible person. Horrible
Tell us
person.
why. I mean, don't give away too much, but you've already kind of isolated who they are in the family. Now people can look it up. But go ahead.
He's the type of person who won't ask how you are. He just talks about himself all the time. Completely self-obsessed. Doesn't care at all about what's going on in anyone else's life. Only his own.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Oh,
You got anyone in mind? The worst person you've ever met?
The thing is, I've got there's a podium of them. As you asked it, I had to go through these 3 people, but because it's the latest active one, was that a friend of mine had just moved back from, so he was with this girl the whole time. Nobody has ever liked her, but cool, whatever. We all learned we all learned from before when we tried to intervene with another friend who we lost. Fine. So he came back from Luxembourg just as lockdown was kind of happening. I can't remember where it was, but then we organized a lunch, kind of, lads, let's catch up. Everyone can eventually have lunch. She's still phoning him at lunch, like, who you with? Who's there? When are you coming home?
Oh, okay.
And it hasn't changed since we were like in our mid-20s, and she's the biggest wet blanket in the world. Like, when somebody gets there and I just want to go home is the immediate like feel. So she's that as well. She doesn't like anyone. She doesn't like anything unless he's at home with her. And she's painful. She's painful. And you can't say anything around her because she gets like snipey. And we've never worked at all because I will bulldoze her and then she starts sulking in the corner kind of thing. So she knows very well not to come around me because I'm full on steamroll. But she's the world champion right now for me.
I think the worst person in the world for each person is different. And it's probably the person who's the most opposite to you in terms of personality, right? So if you're a kind of loud, obnoxious, outgoing, extroverted type person, then the worst person for you might be some introverted, quiet, thoughtful, and perhaps socially boring person. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think of who the worst person is, and I have no ability to retain the knowledge of those kinds of people. Even if I've met them and I've thought, what an awful person, it never really sticks to my memory. I struggle to remember bad experiences. And if I've had meetings with terribly, terribly horrible people, I don't really recall. It gets filed in some part of my brain where, like unpleasantness goes, and it just doesn't come out again. And that drawer is locked. Once things get put in that drawer, it just gets locked, and then I don't think about them anymore. But I mean, here's an example. So Kanda says, I worked for Grace Mugabe for 3 days back in 2006.
Wow.
She's probably one of the worst people in the world, right?
They call it disgrace up north.
Yeah. There are those people who are just terrible, terrible, terrible people. Imagine spending Christmas with Helen Ziller. She probably spends the day explaining how the only reason we have turkeys in South Africa is because of colonialism. Good Lord. There's one in every family, and new ones pop up in every generation.
Absolutely.
You see,
absolutely.
My family's also mostly dead, Leigh-Ann. I mean, we've got a small family.
Mm-hmm.
It's me, my brother and sister, and then my sister.
And only your brother's braid.
Only my brother has kids, and his wife we love, and my sister's boyfriend we love. And my parents are both still alive, but none of my grandparents are. And I have one uncle and one aunt, and my aunt lives in Cape Town, and I like her. And my uncle lives here in Joburg. I don't mind him, but we don't need to see him often. So it's not too difficult. Like, family's not awful. But what my mother always used to do, I don't know if she's planning it for this year, but she used to invite like strays and people who didn't have anyone to spend Christmas with, because she's much more of a feeling, compassionate, empathetic person. And she hates the idea that there's someone who has a lonely Christmas on their own. And so she'll say to me, aren't there people that who are alone for Christmas, and don't you want to invite them? And I try to stop her usually. I say to her, don't. Those people are not your problem. Don't let them come and ruin our Christmas by being, the sad sack at the table. She's like, but shame, poor them. So I'm not worried about Christmas and spending time with someone shit, but there are those people you'd rather avoid this time of year. They like drag you down.
The crappiest people in the world, and I was this in my 20s, so I can speak to it with a PhD qualification, is that I don't mind if you're a crap person and it just affects you. Have at it. It's when you're not aware that you now are in a dynamic where there's a team involved, and there are, like I was with a friend yesterday in Cape Town, and he's got a friend that drinks too much, but now he's just had a young kid, and he's a stepfather to two, I think a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. Now this friend of his, who's been friends with him, let's say for 35 years, since they were 6 years old, is now the drunk uncle. You know what I mean? Like, but you see what I mean? Like, he doesn't get that being one of the lads and being cool and coming to the house and being pop drunk every time for supper.
No.
Do you know what I mean? These are the kinds of people that are, those are the worst people in the world, where it ends at me. Like, I am the center of the world, and I don't care if there's children or families involved. I'll bring the whole town down, and then you know what I'll say tomorrow? I was drunk or whatever. Those are the worst people for me. Yeah.
Well, Sandile says, and he's just reminded me that vegan lesbian I had an argument with in Cape Town. She was the worst, but she wasn't a bad person. We just disagreed. She's not my favorite person, but again, I didn't even remember her until you brought her up. So clearly, I just don't. It may be a superpower, but it may be a huge weakness, that I just put away bad experiences, and I don't remember bad people, and I don't remember ugliness.
I think it's a superpower.
I love it. I mean, it makes me happy, but it doesn't necessarily allow you to grow beyond it. So if you
do
really
you ever worry Pandora's box might open?
Nah, it's not a thing that I'm consciously trying to repress. It's just something that happens. if you and I, if Mbulelo and I have a big fight now, right here on the show, and we get really personal with each other, and it breaks down the relationship and all the rest of it, and you might be dealing with it for a few days. I've already moved on 20 minutes later, and I'm not bearing any grudges. And I'll see you tomorrow and go, hey, Mbulelo, how's it? And we'll be back to normal in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But you may carry this for a long, long time, and I don't know how to change that. So I'm okay with it. I don't think that it's a Pandora's box and it's going to open up and it's going to poison my system at some point. It's just I don't hang on to that stuff personally. Other people may, but for the sake of, I don't know, for just my own peace of mind, I don't bear these grudges for long. I don't carry it. You know, Leigh-Ann, you've known me for a long time.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. It's an enviable trait.
It's there whether I like it or not. So Uncle Potse, she is the devil. Who are we talking about here? Kanda. Oh, we're talking about
Sarah's mom.
Grace Mugabe. No, Grace Mugabe. Because Kanda worked for her for 3 days back in 2006.
Yes.
So Uncle Potse says, what's she like? No, she's the fucking devil, according to Kanda. So, okay, sure. Wow. So Carl says, Leigh-Ann, I thought you were saying only one of us has bread. I felt so sorry that you were in a position where you couldn't even afford bread. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for feeling sorry. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Tough times never.
Yeah, Chris says, Gareth, your mom is hoping you'll bring a significant other. That's why she's asking you to bring strays. No, she invites complete randoms. I mean, like, there's sometimes old family friends.
But like from where? I mean, like from under the bridge, or what is this now?
Dude, it hasn't happened for a while, but I remember once looking around the table at Christmas Eve and thinking, who are these people? No?
And what does she say when you ask that? That's a rational question. Like, she's like, I met him at the shopping center. He was the security guard.
You know what? She says, you shouldn't be so selfish. Some people have very unhappy lives and they have horrible time and they have horrible Christmas, and why shouldn't we make it better for them? I mean, she's a much nicer person than I am. So anyway, bring back Damon with Leigh-Ann. Dr. Hanan will have a field day. Can you imagine that?
I'm laughing because I'd love to see that.
Talking about horrible people, I had the worst client yesterday. They were difficult about paying the bill for their dog that was bitten. Kept mentioning the name of the director of the hospital. Ugh. Yeah. They're those people who just love to moan. I mean, I was listening yesterday to one of my sister's friends she popped in for lunch with the rest of us. And she was saying there's this guy who sends her these voice notes the whole time. He's like one of these Joburg guys he's obviously made some money. And now he kind of throws that in their face the whole time. So he's like, yeah, you know, I'm a high roller. That's how he describes himself.
He does.
He does. That's a horrible person. And he talks like this, you know, how's it? Yeah, I'm a bit of a high roller. Hey, so if I'm looking for this, can you arrange it? That kind of thing. No, she played us the voice note at the table. It was awful. That guy sounds like a shithead. So that's probably the most horrible person I've heard about in the last while. And hearing Hermin's story, that sounds like him.
What a doers.
Dude 69 says, I don't do Christmas anymore. My Jehovah's Witness ex-wife screwed it up for me.
Yes, they'll do that. They'll do that to birthdays and Christmas for sure. For sure.
I mean, again, you know, there are these people who are just dead against Christmas. These, for religious reasons, maybe they grew up and they had horrible Christmases and now they don't want to inflict that on other people. But to me, it's just the highlight of my year. I can't wait for Christmas. I'm so excited about it every single year. There's never been a year where I haven't. You know, they say that the suicide rate goes up over Christmas time because lots of people who are on their own get very depressed. It's a very sentimental time for some people. It's a time where they remember what it was like to be a happy kid and how their life is not like that anymore, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
You never have
Calvin
to worry
has
about me.
a good comment.
Have to worry about me hurting myself at Christmas time. Calvin says, I spent about 5 Christmases on my own during my 20s because I had to work. And I got used to spending Christmas on my own. So to me, it's just another day. Besides, I'm not my family's favorite. Sure. All right, Calvin. Wow.
Oh, dear.
At least you're honest enough to admit that you're not your family's favorite. That's a tough thing
Very
to be able to deal with.
realistic.
Yeah.
So can I just tell you the highlight of my Christmas this year? No doubt. It's filled with everything that's awesome. We have a colleague here called Barrett Edelstein, all right? And so Jewish.
Yes.
And I had to explain to him who Judas Iscariot is. And I thought to myself, you know, with Christmas being the birthday of probably what? The most famous Jewish guy ever? Jesus?
Yes.
You know? I thought, Barrett, you're Jewish. He was Jewish, you know, if you believe in him. And you think that's the guy who betrayed the most famous Jewish guy in the world. Had no idea this guy. He's like 40 years old, this guy. No clue who Judas Iscariot was.
You must read, tell him to read Dante's Inferno, because there are 3 mouths the devil has. He has 3 mouths. Okay, you didn't know this until this morning. And Dante writes about how while he's being led through hell, and the 9th circle, the bottom circle of hell is I think it's called the Malawi or something. And in there is the devil with all 3 of his mouths. And one of the mouths is eating Judas, because treachery is the lowest circle of hell, right? And Judas, and I think Brutus, who betrayed Caesar, and someone else is in the other mouth. I can't remember who for the life of me now. But treachery, Judas is probably like the most despised person in Christendom, because he sold Jesus out for like 20 pieces of silver or whatever
30.
it is.
It was $30.
30 pieces of silver. So I remember a friend of mine who's also Jewish, who said to me once proudly, he used to go around telling people he was a direct descendant of Judas, just to fuck with him, you know? Like, yeah, Judas is my 20 greats grandfather. I'm proudly descended from Judas. Just to mess with people's minds. And people used to get so furious with him. And I thought it was hilarious.
That is funny.
Yeah. So you spent time talking to Barrett about Judas, but you didn't explain why it's going to be the best Christmas ever for you.
No. Just that's what I'm going to remember. I might make a T-shirt of it, of a Jewish guy not knowing the most famous Jewish guy being betrayed by this guy. Like, I thought it was ubiquitous. I thought we all knew who Judas was. You know, there's a painting, they had supper, it was a whole thing, and he was there in the corner, being a shithead, according to that painting. So that will make my Christmas, to know that somebody didn't know who Judas was, and the day Jesus was betrayed doesn't exist in Barrett's world, and that'll make my Christmas that much better. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, Mandia says the worst person she knows is her own mother. Her incestuous bed hopping just
oh my Lord.
My children. Wow, Mandia, your mother sounds awful.
Wait,
good
what?
Heavens.
I say good for her.
Well, no, I mean, she
Living
sounds
it up.
absolutely terrible. Oh my God. Shame. Judas had to do a job in history, says Peter. Yeah, you see, that's the thing. If you break it down philosophically, like Judas's whole role in history was to do this. If he didn't sell Jesus out, then Jesus wouldn't have been able to be crucified and died for our sins, and wouldn't have made this extremely popular religion in his wake. So Judas was just doing his job. You know, give him a chance. Robin says, have you watched The Chosen Free on Spotify? No, I haven't. Although I must tell you, and we're going to speak to a collector in Collectomania just now, who I'm really thrilled to have on. He's someone I've known for a long, long time, and he's a real music aficionado. He's just probably one of the most knowledgeable people on music in the whole of South Africa, if not the world. And Spotify, I went on there the other day, and I discovered, like, comedy. There are a whole bunch of comedians on Spotify who are fantastic. And I spent much of the weekend listening to that. But I mean, any music you want right now, you can get there, right? And for real music collectors, it's a bit of a shame to some of them, because they're like, I've spent years collecting all this music, and now you can just go on Spotify and download it for free or whatever it is. I think there's some irritation among the real music fans when it comes to that stuff. But we'll get to that in a moment or two. Mbulelo, what's happening on your sports show today on Cliff Central Sport, the MKT show?
Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about the 100K race. I did on the weekend. Devin Miller was supposed to be on, but unfortunately he's actually had a last minute cancellation. He did a different 100K a week ago, a different mountain run. So we'll talk to him later this week. But yeah, back in it, we'll talk football, rugby, cricket. It's coming up to that best part of the year where it's sports mania now, which is awesome for sports fans.
Very good. Very, very good. And Leigh-Ann wants to just quickly tell us a story about Malawi, who are going to ask Mike Tyson to become their cannabis ambassador. Is that true?
Yes.
What?
So they've actually asked him, and apparently he's considering it.
Hello, who is this?
I
Is it Malawi? Hi. You want me to be your cannabis ambassador?
I mean, how's he going to even say that?
I forgot that he's like quite well known for his use of cannabis. He has a podcast, I don't know if it's still around, called Hotboxin'.
And it's the second biggest podcast on Spotify right now. Or
oh,
at least
really?
last
Really?
week. Yeah, no, it's an awesome podcast. I mean, I'm old grumpy man when it comes to weed. I'm like not into it. I think Ben's very much the same. Is that weed smell is loser poverty smell to me, but his podcast is incredible. It's actually
because he
incredible.
apparently partakes during his recordings.
Mm-hmm.
He's also apparently invested in the cannabis industry.
Okay.
He's operating both Tyson Ranch and Tyson 2.0. Tyson Ranch is a 420-acre cannabis resort. Tyson 2.0 is a company that produces original strains. So the BBC says that Tyson has accepted the offer from Malawi, and that a visit to the country is being planned. Malawi legalized the growing and processing of cannabis for medicinal use in 2020, so only last year. Recreational use is still prohibited, but a locally grown variety, which I've known all along, is Malawi Gold. And that's
right.
Very popular. So they want to use Tyson to rope in some investors and even potential buyers within the Malawi marijuana market. So yeah, that could be interesting. I think it's props to Malawi, this country out of nowhere approaching this big cannabis guy. Yeah.
Well, he is he's one of those characters in the world that you'd want on your side. And I think he could do a lot to sell Malawi gold to the rest of the world. So good for them. Smart move. All right, it is time for Collectomania. And today's guest on Collectomania is Benji Moody, who's a veteran of the South African music industry. He's helped develop some of the giants in the SA music business, including Evoid, Mango Groove, Mark Alex, Little Sister, countless others. His real passion now is a record store that he has in Johannesburg. Working in a record store was his first job in Hillbrow when he was 16. So it's amazing to see that he is back selling, playing, and talking about music. So here he is, Benji Moody. How are you, Benj?
Hey, Gareth and team. How's it?
It's nice to see you, man. I haven't seen you in ages. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I think the last time we saw each other was probably at Sun City drinking tequila.
I'm glad to hear that you're still on that vibe. But listen, first of all, just tell us about your shop, because we were complaining the other day that music stores have gone and there's nowhere to do this anymore. But people like you are keeping the faith alive.
Well, when I left Universal back in 2013, I kind of hit on this thing to work in a record store, which, as you quite rightly pointed out, was my first job. And I wanted to go back to that. I've never moved away from records. I've always had records. I've always collected records. And it just thankfully coincided with this rise of the vinyl record and the decline of CD and DVD, and the rise, of course, as you said, of Spotify. So vinyl records have become a serious contender, and there's such a shortage of releases now because they're backed up. There's not enough plants in Europe and Japan and America.
So first of all, what's your record store called, and where can we find it?
It's called, it's Vinyl Junkie. It's in Conrad Drive in Blairgowrie.
Beautiful. And are you selling specifically, collector's editions of things, or you pretty much?
Well, I mean, I sell those. I sell collectors. Sure. I sell brand new 180 gram stuff. I sell everything from ABBA to ZZ Top. I mean, the middle market for me is the young people that are coming in, and buying records. And that's been the most amazing development in the last couple of years, is the amount of young people buying records and buying record players.
So Benji, just for starters, I mean, you've got an incredible and impressive collection yourself. You know, but you've trimmed that right down, as people tend to do when they decide, no, this is taking up too much space. I mean, I've got shelves and shelves of CDs. I don't know what I'm ever going to do with them. I don't even have a CD player in my house at the moment, but most of my music is now digital. And when I listen to stuff, it's on my phone or on, you know, on an iPad or whatever. How do you decide, like you did, that you're going to cut your 16,000 records down to just 200 albums? How do you even make those decisions?
It was a very difficult decision. I really based it upon what that record meant to me when I was young, and growing up, or certain periods of my life. And it was hard. I mean, I held on to about 2,000 for a while. And then eventually when I opened the shop, I thought, you know, just let it go. And now I'm sitting, 200 and counting again, because I've started collecting again. You don't get away from it if you love records, you know.
But collecting music is very different to collecting other things, because you actually participate in it. I mean, you know, I collect books, I collect coins, I collect military memorabilia, but the music collection is something I actually participate in regularly. I'll listen to a couple of songs and it reminds me of people or of places or of things that I've done. And it can be tremendously emotional to be on a musical roller coaster. I mean, do you listen to music on your own with your headphones on, or do you like to share music with other people? I mean, is it something that you throw into your social life, or you invite people around and you listen to music together? How does it work for you?
Well, it works both ways. I mean, I do listen to music continuously every day, both at the shop and here. And I'm known by my friends. They go, "Oh my God, here he goes again. The record player's on." And you know, I'll put stuff on and say, "Hey, have you heard this?" You know, and they go, "Oh," they roll their eyes, but they get involved. It's a very, you're right, it's personal. I like my music as a body of work rather than a single track that you would get, say, on Spotify or Apple iTunes. And the reason for that is a very simple concept. I think Da Vinci would never, or Michelangelo would never have painted the Sistine Chapel only one corner and then said, "Why don't you imagine the rest of that? What do you think?" You have to listen to it as a body of work. So when you listen to Pink Floyd, The Wall, you can't just listen to another brick in the wall. You've got to listen to the whole album to see it within the context. So I love devouring albums as a piece of art, you know, as music.
Well, I love the way you use the word devour, and I just put up a shop front picture of your store, and you've got a record with someone who's taken a bite out of it and a knife and fork on either side, because you can devour music, right? It's the most incredible thing. And I know that it's very difficult for people to choose their favorite artist or their favorite song or their favorite album, but you can have more than one. You can have more than 100 if you like. You can have as many as you want.
Records are like soulmates to me. I think if I had to choose an artist that influenced me for the rest of my life, it's what I call my light switch moment, was this record, the first album by Jimi Hendrix. It's Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, wow.
Are You Experienced, 1967. And I was 13, given a new record player by my father, went into the record bar in Benoni, picked this up, put it on. Yeah. And I went from wanting to be an archaeologist to being something in music. So it was responsible for me kind of traveling down that road.
Well, I just want to quickly digress to the people who make Collectomania possible. Talking about music, the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop are also music lovers. And this year they launched coins celebrating legends like AC/DC, David Bowie, Elton John. And they launched 2 new coins celebrating Fender guitars. I want to show you some pictures of these. This is pretty awesome stuff. So if you collect, by the way, here's a guitar pick that this is amazing. Let me show you some of these pictures quickly. So first of all, here's the silver Fender Stratocaster coin. The coin is actually in the shape of the guitar, which is pretty damned amazing. And you can buy it. There it is. It's a 1 ounce silver Stratocaster shaped coin. You know, that's a legendary guitar. And people all over the world know what the Fender Stratocaster is. But if you want to get hold of these, you can get hold of them, and you can find out more by emailing us at contact@cliffcentral.com, or you can go along to the Scoin Shop and find them on scoinshop.com. There is a Rocktober.
So cool.
That is cool, huh? There's a Rocktober competition going on, even though we're out of October already. If you send in a video of a guitar solo or even an air guitar solo, you can stand the chance of winning one of these amazing silver Fender 75th anniversary guitar pick coins. Look at this, which is valued at over 3,000 Rand. And you can check it out at scoinshop.com for all those details. So some very cool things that they've got on the menu at the Scoin Shop and the South African Gold Coin Exchange. Go and take a look. Pretty cool. So Benj, these are some of the vinyl records on sale at your establishment, Vinyl Junkie. What have you sold for the most money, and what are the most in-demand albums that you've got on sale there? I mean, there must be people like our mutual friend Randall Abrahams who comes and bothers you for whatever you've got and tries to find orders of things or special collector's edition stuff from overseas. What sort of stuff do you have?
Oh, Randall's a real vinyl head, just like me. I've got everything there. The most requested things like the Doors and Zeppelin.
Oh, yeah.
On the one side, and believe it or not, one of the biggest selling records is Dirty Dancing.
Really?
Shame to say, yeah. Because the girls come in.
That's because nobody puts Baby in the corner. That's why. That's
well, the girls come in with their husbands and the husbands' brows, and then they kind of look very bored, and then they go, "Oh, look, darling, Dirty Dancing." And I just smile, you know. As for the first part of the question, the most expensive record I've sold, 28,000 Rand.
What was that?
It was a obscure Greek prog rock band called Aphrodite's Child. Back in 1970, did an album called 666, which was about the apocalypse. It starred, believe it or not, do you remember Demis Roussos, the big fat Greek singer?
Yes.
You may not know. So Demis Roussos was in this band. That on a particular label called Vertigo in its original bags. Yeah, that goes for, I think, about these days for about £2,000.
Phenomenal. And is there something you're looking for your own collection that you still haven't found?
What did you two say? I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Wow. Probably the first album by an LA band called Love. It's a self-titled debut from '66. I'm still looking for that. I've got the second, the third, the fourth, and the fifth, but I don't have the first one.
Wow. I mean, you're going deep here. I don't think I've ever heard of Love, and that's just incredible.
Well, you know, I mean, I listen to all kinds of music. I'm into soul music, in a big way. I love Motown. I collect a lot of Motown and early Atlantic stuff. I listen to jazz. I listen to rock, and I love pop music. But I like my pop music intelligent, you know, as I call it. It's very pretentious.
Benji, what do you suggest people like me should do with our CD collections? Because it's here, it's taking up all this space. I don't know if anybody wants CDs or if anybody even cares about CDs anymore, whether I should donate them to like charities that are probably going to set fire to them or something. Because I've got most of that stuff, but they mean a lot to me. Like, you know, some of these albums, and I did a big clean out about 5 or 6 years ago. But some of them I just can't bear to be parted from because they've got the album sleeve with the lyrics in it, or, you know, the band put in some special piece of literature about them. I can't throw that stuff away. It hurts too much.
Don't throw them away. They'll come back, as all things do in culture.
You think?
All culture is retro, and it'll come back again. Already people are coming in and buying CDs. I think what is amazing, in the beginning, people used to come in and look at the record player and pick up the record and look at the album cover, and kids would point to how does that work. Now they come in and they go, what are these? And you go, they're CDs. And they go like, what CDs? So, you can donate them, which a lot of people do. I've still got a massive collection of CDs. I'm the same as you. I'm not going to get rid of them. They mean something.
Well, Sharon says, my first record was An American Prayer by Jim Morrison and the Doors.
Oh, I know that album. Yeah, it was a posthumous record that the Doors did with Morrison. It's a poetry album, actually.
Jim wants to know, while we're asking you questions, where can you buy a record player these days? Are there still places that sell them?
Well, most of the bricks and mortar record shops, and there are quite a few in Joburg, sell turntables. And that's the key to having a successful relationship, so to speak, with records, is getting yourself a good player. Yeah.
Robin's looking for the Rodriguez second record and then some Carlos Santana.
Well, coming from reality, yeah, that I've got. Santana, I've got plenty Santana. It's kind of, there's a lot of that around. The Rodriguez is quite rare.
Yeah, it makes me a little bit sad that so many of the record companies are gone, especially those big chains you used to go into, and there'd be some angry teenager who'd be like, "Oh, you want soul music? What the hell's wrong with you?" And you'd get attitude from them about your genre choices. But it was nice because you also got a feel for what was out there, and you used to see they'd have a chart of these are the top 10 records on sale at the moment. You don't get that anymore, right?
No, you don't. And the reason music stores disappeared is not necessarily because the physical format disappeared or CD, but they disappeared simply because they moved away from their core business, which was selling music, and staffing their shops with people who understood music, so that when you walked in and you went, "Have you got Queen?" they wouldn't look at you blankly. So that's why the music is and the look and listens collapsed, because they were selling everything from Lego, I mean, there was so many things you could buy there. And when vinyl came along, they all got into vinyl, but they didn't really embrace it. And now I suppose they regret, because vinyl worldwide is the fastest growing medium in the world.
That's incredible. Yeah, Benji, the most interesting thing for me about all this music collection is that when people eventually realize that their collection isn't going to go to someone who loves it as much as they do, it's a bit of an aha moment. I mean, who are you going to leave all your music to? Because it's such a specialized thing. And I mean, listen, God willing, you've still got many years of enjoying it. And I'm not thinking about exiting stage left anytime soon. So I'm still going to be listening to my music for years. But I don't know that anyone will want the music that I've collected as much as I do, especially because it's such a peculiar and individual thing. What are you going to do with it?
I've already taken moves, particularly with my South African music collection, because as you pointed out, I'm very passionate about South African music, and I have been all my life. So I've made plans to donate it to people, younger people that are coming up, who are like archivists. So the stuff will go there. I'm more concerned about the South African stuff, that I was involved with, and that carrying on. Art travels with people. So whilst I might be gone, the art will still be there through other people. As for the international stuff, I don't know. My wife will probably flog it off to some record collector.
Well, let's hope there are many more years of you using it.
I hope so too.
Oh. No, this is very cool. Mbulelo, do you collect any music?
I don't really collect, not the way Benji's describing it, but I guess I'm more digital now. I don't really like stuff hanging around me, but it's awesome to listen to somebody. I mean, music is the one outside of sport. Music's the other one, whether you're in Spain or Uruguay, we're all connected by music, right? There's certain, I don't know if this has happened to you, Benji, when you travel and you hear just one note of a song, and it reminds you of home. That can be such a moving thing. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, where you just hear I don't know, a Miriam Makeba song. Like I remember hearing it in Canada, and I just whoa, it really hit me.
Yeah, that's special.
It's happened to me so many times, and I'm glad you said that, Mbulelo. But the thing is that music traveled in the same way that commerce and people traveled through thousands of years. I've been in India in a small little classical music performance where I've heard elements of Irish music, because I know that people traveled over the seas in boats and took their instruments and music with them. You're quite right. Music is so universal and so emotional. And I'm just happy that when I was 13 that this thing happened to me and I got involved. I mean, I didn't become Jimi Hendrix, but you know.
But you've had an incredible career, and I mean, the number of bands who owe their origin and their success partly due to you is a huge accolade. And I mean, I think that you continue to do amazing things for South African musicians in a way that you're kind of married to this stuff, whether you like it or not. You know, it's part of your life. You've made it part of everyone else's life. It's very, very special.
Well, I can't get away from it. I mean, I was supposed to have called it a day in 2013, but I've continued with it. But here's the thing, Gareth, is, yeah, I've been. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been successful, because it all starts with the music and with the artist. I'm very artist orientated and artist rights orientated, and that's the kind of role I do now as I mentor young artists in what the industry is now, because it's a different beast to what it was in 2013 or in 2010. So I like to kind of fill them in on what to do and what not to do.
Now, that room that you're sitting in now, I can see some of the records up on the shelf there behind you, and I suppose that's a turntable, and there's some other equipment around there. Is that where you listen to music mostly? Is that room dedicated to music?
Yeah, we've got this beautiful open plan music room with lounge and dining room. It flows out on the outside, and I've got a really nice system. So, you know, beautiful. I can sit in the lounge, but often I sit on the couch and just listen. We have music nights, Dion and I.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I mean, you guys are just you're a bit of an institution yourself, and the things that you continue to do for South African music and through your radio show, letting people know about stuff and talking with such understanding and knowledge about so many artists that have come and gone. It's just terrific to hear. It really is very, very special. All right.
Thank you.
So, Benj, great to have you on the show this morning, and thank you for sharing your collection with us. And keep on collecting and help the rest of us to start our collections. Go along to Benji's shop, and you can see for yourself. There it is, Vinyl Junkie, and you can find all the records that you've always wanted and start collecting now. And you don't have to start with 100 albums. Start with 3 or 4. That's a collection.
Absolutely. Hope to see
Very
you
good.
there.
Absolutely. Nice to see you. Cheers, Benji. There's Benji Moody. And that's Collectomania for this morning. But don't forget, there are also those incredible collector's items that the Scoin Shop are putting on sale. I mean, there's a guitar pick from the Solomon Islands, which is $2 of silver, but it's actually about 3,000 rands worth. You can also get one of these Fender Stratocaster silver coins, but it's shaped like a guitar. That's pretty damn cool. Get awesome. Yourself one of those. Yeah. I'm interested also because music collection it's part of travels on here now, but it's something everybody can collect. I just love the fact that you put your playlists together. And how many playlists do you have? Because I've got like 20. I got 20 different for different things. There's a playlist for like dinner party. There's a playlist for a full-on party. There's a old school playlist. There's like a soul R&B playlist. There's a playlist of hard rock. There's a playlist of ballads. It's all kinds of shit. I have so many different collections on my phone, and therefore on all my devices around the house.
You know why I stopped making playlists was that I could feel myself becoming my parents about 4 or 5 years ago, where I wouldn't listen to any new music, and that's not good. Because I don't want to be. I don't know if you've ever been around your parents or an older generation where they go, music was better when. I never want to be that person. Like I kind of always want to know what's going on, and I don't want to become that guy who's obsessed with the 90s.
And I'm always updating. So the playlist is, and that's what's nice. You can also share it with other people, and if you give them permission, they can even add to the playlist. You have to be very careful, obviously, who you give permission to, because otherwise you'll end up with horrible shit on your playlist. But it's always being updated. If I hear a great new song, I'll add it. If I hear an old song that I haven't heard in years, I'll add that as well. and then it goes on to the different playlists. But essentially, I'm creating these constantly evolving playlists, and it's never boring. You just press play, and surprise after surprise comes. I mean, I'm up to like, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 songs in my library.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's good.
Music's great.
Yeah,
music's great. It's a great art form. I'm a proponent, although as an individual, I'm individualist. Anything that creates community, I'm a big fan of. And music's, I mean, outside of sport, again, music and sport for me are both. They bring us together as human beings. I love it. I love that part of music.
Bichleng says he's got 12 playlists on Spotify.
12?
No,
I have 3.
Jean says 3 is enough. She agrees with you. Sunday chillers, gym, and a general playlist. Okay.
Yeah.
I have 1 playlist, says Carol, which is my preference, but the rest of the time I simply click on create station via iTunes. Yeah, these days you also get these suggestions, and because these algorithms are so good at saying, well, if you like this song, you'll probably like this one. And then they give you a bunch of selection. You usually find all of those songs are good too. I don't know where Leigh-Ann has gone. Jean wants to know, but she dropped off. I think maybe her internet's down, or I don't know, something going on there. Tracy says, music is a constant in my life. Yeah, I love listening to music. Don't get me wrong. Most of my day these days is spent listening to playlists of podcasts. But there are those times, especially if you're driving or, you're doing a long road trip. You either get into a playlist of podcasts or you get into a playlist of music, and both can be as absorbing as each other. It's really fun. Also, when I'm at home doing like admin stuff, if I'm replying to emails or I'm tidying up around the house or any of that stuff, then I'll listen to music. And it's sometimes it's just a cool thing to do, It sort of keeps you in a certain mood and a vibe. And it improves your mood if you're not having a great day. Barrett, who you were talking about earlier, Mbulelo, says, I create playlists for my spinning classes that I teach, because Barrett's a spinning instructor. And I currently have 206 playlists. Yo!
What?
That's enough for 3 years of classes. That's quite incredible. That's incredible.
Wow. Barrett. That's wild.
Thanks to iTunes and Spotify, discovering new bands and songs has never been this easy. Yeah, it's absolutely right. That's true. The first album you bought, mine was Madonna's Like a Virgin, says Steph. Huh.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't Madonna. I think mine was Tears for Fears. Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Mine was Eminem. Eminem's first album. I remember I saved up pocket money and scrounged, and greatest day of my life. What was his very first album? I forget, the Slim Shady LP, hey, or whatever that was. Yeah. I remember that was the first one I bought with my own cash. Like, there was always CDs in the house, but that was my album. I remember that one, and like, however old I was, rebelling against the world, and I had Eminem.
Absolutely. Benji mentioned how vinyl is different to listening to music digitally, and this is what Freedom Farts is saying. Say, play vinyl and you'll discover feeling music versus listening to it. I mean, that's something I've discussed with Randall as well, and he's a proper vinyl junkie. He says that there are certain frequencies that get left out when you convert from, the original recordings of music, which are obviously analog. He says there's a lot that gets left out, that gets minimized during the compression process of making an MP3, for example, that you just miss out on. But I have to be honest with you, I'm not one of those people who puts on, these super 17-track recordings that, because you could get the digital versions of those that are much better than the MP3s that you'll get off Spotify, for example. And I'm not as much of a music aficionado as some of these guys are, who are massively into their vinyl. So I miss out on some of that stuff, and it's okay. I'm not going to be hugely pissed off if I don't hear the sound of the ticking clock in the background in Sun Studios while the Beatles are busy rehearsing. It's not a big deal for me. I'd rather just listen to the finished product, as much as they might compress and simplify.
I can't believe you still got CDs. I was taken aback when you said that. I was like, heavens.
I have no space for them anymore. I've literally, they're stacked, kind of 2 rows of them per shelf, and it's
just let them go.
What am I going to do with them? Who am I going to give these to? It break my heart. I don't know what to do.
Just let them go. You don't let them go. Like, it'll be a good cleansing for your soul, and also open up and maybe get some vinyls in there. Like, CDs are that in between, wishy-washy. You know what I mean? It's like
no.
It's vinyls. I think are still kind of cool.
Have I played any single CD for the last 8 years? No, I haven't even played one for 8 years. I don't even have a device to play CDs on. My laptop doesn't even have a thing for CDs anymore. When last did a laptop have a DVD or CD player in it? It's you don't get those. So if I wanted to play one now, I wouldn't know how.
Yeah, since we last used CDs, we've figured out how to use fire to cook. By the way, I mean, what are we doing?
Come on. All right, hang on.
Vinyl. I'm vinyl. I'm with Benji.
Here's what I'll do. Over December, I've sort out all my playlists. I'm gonna tidy them up, throw out the songs I don't know. I'm gonna spend a good day or two during the holidays when I don't have anything else to do, sorting out my playlists. It's gonna give me such joy, and then the playlists will be perfect, and I'll be able to press play and know that everything that comes out of there is just magic. And then and then it'll be perfect. And then I'll go through all my CDs, and I will. Let's say I have to get rid of 3/4 of them. Will you be happy with that? You think that'll be some improvement? Okay.
Yeah, it's a start. It's a start.
All right. I'm going to go through all my CDs. I will get rid of 3/4 of them. Let's see if I can do that. Awesome. I'll keep 1/4 just for my own peace of mind.
But music's great. The bottom line is that without music, without art, we're broken as people. I love music, whatever it is. You know what? I remember going to a friend of mine. That's why I always say, white people, you need black people. Black people, you need white people. We all need each other. Yes. He's a friend of mine when I was really young. My first friend I ever had. He took me to a Slipknot concert when I was younger. I mean, coming from a very conservative, but even that was like an awesome experience. Like, I'm not into that kind of music, but that's just awesome. It's like, that is a whole different world of expressing, whether it may be anger or channeling a whole different expression of whatever's going on. And it connected us. Like, me and my mate now, he still listens to that stuff. I don't. Yeah. Like, but it connects us. Like, I know some of the songs now. Like, you know what I mean? It's
Michael says, let Benji know I just emailed Alban, the founder member of Love, to see if we can get him that one album he doesn't have. Oh my God, he'll be so thrilled, Michael. We'll Michael, send me an email and I'll connect you up with Benji. That would be amazing. Just Gareth at cliffcentral.com. And
that'll be so cool if you can organize it.
That's great. Freedom Fighter says, decorate your Christmas tree with CDs, just bringing us full circle. That's terrific. And when Staring Pikachu says, my car can play CDs. Huh.
Wow.
Remember that?
Wow.
Yeah. Robin says, you can get an external CD drive. Yeah, I know. I've seen those, but that's like, I don't have a turntable in this house, sadly. So even if I wanted to collect vinyl, I wouldn't be able to. All right. Enough of that for this morning. There's plenty more. Collectomania, of course, is brought to you by the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. Check them out at scoinshop.com. And you know what? If you're looking for a perfect Christmas present for somebody, you can go and see their extraordinary range of not only collectible, but also valuable investment grade coins. So go and have a look at that, and you'll see lots of good stuff that you can probably fill the Christmas stocking with. And at the same time, you're hedging yourself against the currency, because something like gold or silver or platinum, those don't deteriorate in value. They go up over time. So there's something to think about. All right, everybody, we will see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. bright and early. Have an excellent Monday. Cheers.